All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of season 2, and this is the podcast Undefiled with your host AC
and Ivy.
All right, we've been out of it so long, she forgot how to introduce herself.
It's been a long time.
So first, we're going to start off by saying thank you so much for tuning in. For those that are watching the live video cast, we appreciate you for being a part of our live virtual audience. For those of you that are currently listening on the podcast, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to click. Make sure you follow us. We are on Spotify and also Anchor, so you can follow us wherever you get your podcast from. Also, if you like watching the actual virtual cast, or if you want to be a part of the virtual audience, make sure you follow us on all forms of social media. Mainly, we stream from Facebook and YouTube, and that's the Davis Clan page. But you can also follow us on my personal page as well, both the Davis Clan on Facebook and YouTube. But we're excited to be here, man. We are finally starting season 2.
Finally. It's his fault.
How?
But we're here.
No. We're not. You're not gonna say that and just give up. How in the world is it my fault?
It's your fault. He's the busy man. The busy man.
Listen, we had a lot of things going on, a lot of different things that were transpiring. As my wife said, we've been extremely busy. And I'll say this before we even get started. One of the things that we did before we started this podcast is we went to our spiritual leaders and got advice from them to see if it was even a good idea for us to do this. And it was something that he told us when we started. He said, pray about it, of course. Make sure that God is in it and God is with it. But he said, also be careful. And if you find out that there's anything causing issues along the way, if you feel like your marriage is under attack in any way, in the process of doing it, then step back. And so through wisdom, even in preparing the season 2, we wanted to make sure we gave ourselves time to properly work on us, to properly continue to build us so that we could be healthy, even in the presentation of what we're offering to, in terms, be beneficial to you all.
Right. So we back together again. We back together.
Oh God. Wow.
I mean, we was never apart, but you know what I'm saying? We had life was lifing.
Yeah. Life was lifing is the best way to put it.
Life was definitely lifing.
But nevertheless, God has been gracious. He's been fortunate. We've made it through a lot of different challenges that presented themselves along the way, and we are finally here to start off season 2, which we have titled Marriage Killers. Marriage Killers. All right, so just to give a brief overview of what season 2 is going to be about, we're going to be delving into different topics that causes issues in marriage, hence the term marriage killers. These are topics that can either cause there to be severe issues in marriage, small issues in marriage, but either way, if these issues are overlooked, they could more than likely kill or destroy or cause divorce in marriage. And so all throughout this particular season, we're going to be delving into all those topics. Some of you, if you follow us on social media, you may have seen a preview of some of the topics that we'll be discussing on our Facebook page. If you have not, I do encourage you to go back and look. We do giveaways all the time to guess what the next topic will be. As a matter of fact, we have a giveaway.
I was about to say, we got a giveaway now.
Yeah, we're not going to do it now, but we do have a giveaway today for our live audience. So that's why we encourage, if you're listening on the podcast, that's one of the benefits of listening to us live is you get to be a part of the virtual giveaway. So make sure that if you're not following us on social media, that you do that so that you can be a part of the giveaway. But again, we do have something that we're going to give away on today. I'll hold it up real quickly. Boom. All right. The light reflected, so you didn't really get to see it, but that's all you're going to get until we get to the end of it. So we do have something that we're going to give away on today, but we just want to make sure that you're aware, and we're getting ready to get started with our conversation. So again, we're talking about on today, well, we didn't say it yet.
No, we did.
We said what the name of the season was, but we didn't say what the name of the episode. Now, the name of the episode is Crowded. And so today we want to talk about how having a crowded marriage can be a marriage killer.
Hello.
All right. So when you hear the term crowded, babe, when I first told you that we were going to, when we first discussed, rather, I don't want to make it seem like I told you what we were going to do, but when we first discussed and we picked the topic crowded, like when you heard that, what did you think about?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, what you mean by crowded? Like, explain to me what you mean by crowded. But when he did his deep theological explanation, biblical, indoctrinated.
Oh my God!
Well, let me stop.
Because you getting close. Because you about to start making the words.
I know. So let me just hush. Now I realize it's like, okay, crowded meaning everybody in your ear except the right one.
Right. So whenever you look at crowded from that standpoint, basically what it's talking about is a situation to where you have your marriage, right? And there's so many different people that have an opinion about what needs to take place in your marriage, or they want to tell you how to respond to your spouse. They want to tell you how to raise your children. They want to tell you certain things that you want to do, and they may not have your best interests at heart. So in, I guess, a simplified version, because I don't want to be so deep and theological and indoctrinal like my wife said, but the simplified version of it is simply just having too many people in your marriage. You know, when you think about marriage, right? Marriage is between husband and wife, between the two spouses, you know. Right. And so the overarching design of what a marriage is meant to do is to draw the two together. And so whenever you allow there to be a conversation that is had to where other people who are not a part of your marriage to have a voice in your marriage, sometimes we don't realize how dangerous that can really be.
Right. Because I had people in my ear starting off. In the beginning, I sure did. I had a good bit of people in my ear. And, you know, some of it was sound advice, but then some of it was just, I'm going to be honest with you, like the certain people that I had in my ear telling me different things. I don't know. It didn't click with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we first got married, you know, they was telling us, like, you spend too much time with him. You know, y'all need a break from each other. And I'm like, we just got married. We don't want a break from each other. We was, you know, real clingy, but...
We was real clingy?
Yeah.
Like me and you?
Yes.
Not just you by yourself?
So you weren't clingy?
I'm asking a question. I'm not putting out a statement. I'm just trying to figure out.
Okay, well, I'm asking a question. Was you clingy?
No. Keep talking to the people.
Was you clingy?
No, keep talking to the people.
He was clingy. But anyway, so... You made me lose my train of thought.
I just asked a question.
So they was telling us, you know, you ain't got this bit all up in your man face, and you know, don't be clingy. Every time he goes somewhere, you got to go, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, this is what we want to do. He's okay with it. I'm okay with it. But I would say it didn't ruin our marriage. It just kind of, like I said, I just had somebody in my ear telling me things that didn't work for us because we want to be with each other.
Yeah, I kind of liked it, you know.
Oh.
What? Oh, that didn't sound as good. Oh.
You know what? Okay.
I'm just saying that, like you said, we were at a place in our relationship and in our marriage where, you know, spending all of that time together. And even now, I think we do still spend, you know, so at that time we were spending a lot of time.
You spend what?
No, I said at that time.
Oh, at that time. Okay.
We were spending a lot of time together. And apparently it was necessary because there will come a season where we don't spend as much time. And so, you know, originally we were hearing advice about how that may not have been the best thing, but it actually turned out to be a good thing for us.
Right.
And I don't believe that the advice was given to cause issues in our marriage. I really, truly, honestly believe that it was advice that was given with sincerity of heart. It was meant to be encouraging. It was meant to be wise. It was meant to be instructful, but it was just not good for us.
Right.
And we had to make that decision on whether or not it was good for us. We had to have a conversation between me and my spouse and say, me and my wife, we had to, that's literally the same thing. I just didn't want you to feel like I don't know, but we just we just had to make sure that we had that conversation to, I guess, solidify. Like, okay, this is what we were instructed, this is what we were told, but even with that being said, how do we feel? You know, how do we feel about the situation? Do we think it works or do we not think? And after having that conversation, it helped us to position ourselves better to say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do going forward. And, you know, even though the advice was good advice, it was not good advice for us.
And like you said before, spending all that time together was good for us back then,
right,
because of where we are now. I'm not saying that we don't spend no time with each other, because we do, but now, you know, we got a whole bunch of kids now, and we have jobs and businesses, and, you know, we got visions, and this is everything. Now it's like we have to make time to spend with each other, versus we had all the time in the world to be with each other. We could do what we want, get up when we want, go to bed when we want. Wasn't that?
Oh my God!
Wasn't that? Look, just remember, like,
oh man. But I'm glad you brought that up, because in some ways, right, that's another way where marriage becomes crowded. Because as your marriage grows, as life grows, your plate grows, and your level of responsibility grows, and you become, I guess, less available to your spouse as you were in the beginning. And that was something that somebody said that I wish we would have caught, but we did not catch. I think because after our first year of marriage, we immediately began family planning. We wanted to have children. Now, we had already had children before marriage, but we wanted to have a child together. And someone said something to us that we completely ignored, but it was like, take time to enjoy one another. Just take time to enjoy one another. And it was like, we are enjoying one another. Like, what are you talking about? Like, right? It's like, not going to listen to you.
I mean,
and yeah, we probably should have listened. Now, of course, we don't regret the children that we have, but what we regret is, I guess, like she said, just missing the time that we would have had, but we don't have now, because like things are so busy. You have to remember, like, and people that know us know this, but we have 7 children total. That's a lot to plan around. That's a lot to prepare for school. That's a lot to prepare for future. When you think about extracurricular
activities,
right? And then you add in ministry on top of that. Like, all of these things play a major part in.
And then you still have to make time for your spouse,
and that's hard to do. I'm telling you, a lot of times in marriage, your spouse catches the last bit of the time you have left. You spend so much time pouring out to everybody else. You know, you go, especially like we put our kids on a pedestal, so we'll be a parent first before we be a spouse. You know, you go to work because you have to work, so you give your 110% while on the job. And if you're in ministry, you give 110% while in ministry. And so when you come home, the last thing you want to do is be anything. You want to just take everything off. You want to just be able to relax. And so what ultimately ends up happening, whether we intend for it to be that way or not, is that we have nothing left for our spouse. And so your marriage becomes crowded with all of this different weight that you're carrying, that you forget that you're meant to carry one another.
Right.
So even,
but he carries me well. He got his time, but he carries me well.
I feel like you've been throwing little subtle things, like little subtle comments. But
I mean, listen, he got his little own podcast. I'm gonna start my own podcast. I got a story to tell. I'll just let me be free and just tell it all. So he think he's slick. He want to start his own podcast without me. I'm gonna start mine.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with us.
I'm gonna start mine.
So since you brought it out there, for those that don't know, I just
go ahead.
You sure?
Go ahead.
You're positive. Is it okay?
He has a podcast called The Seated Place. Go ahead and talk about your podcast.
It's called A Seated Place.
Same thing.
It's not the same thing, because if you put in The Seated Place, you may not get it. It's called A Seated Place. And it's just a podcast that the Lord placed in my spirit to do. And it's just dealing with secondary leadership and ministry. It's completely off the cuff, and by that it just means there's no direct type of structure. It's just basically me having a conversation for whoever and whomever really want to listen. So it is available now live on Spotify, so you can check that out if you want, and just kind of tune in. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. See, we got each other. We good. You good. She's secretly jealous, and that's why she brought it up.
So you gonna be mad?
No, put you down.
No. Okay.
No, 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 because I feel like no,
Because we got to get out of this live.
Me and you will never part.
Crowded.
But again, getting back to the topic at hand, yeah. So when you think about crowded, and you think about what that really means, like again, we're talking about how these different situations cause there to be separation in marriage, right? So one of the things that we talked about earlier was how someone gave us advice. Now, we never said particularly who, and we're not going to say who, but at that time we were not talking about like close people, like an in-law, right? But and we say this with grace because your parents may be watching, my mom may be watching. We love you
very much,
wholeheartedly. You all have been there for us. You've kept us together. But keeping your in-laws inside of your marriage can be very dangerous. Here's why. You know, there are certain times where your spouse may do something and it causes you to feel some type of way. And in you feeling some type of way, you need someone to vent to. So you go to your in-law and you begin to vent and you express your anger, you express your frustration, and all of that's well and fine. But you're going to forgive your spouse eventually, right? But they may not. And so what you've done is you've unintentionally caused them to have art with your spouse over something that you're going to forgive and forget. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing.
That baby, I used to tell my mom everything when we got married. Every little thing AC did that was wrong, that looked wrong, that I thought that he might have been doing, but he would. I told it all. But even though my mom doesn't hold a grudge against him, it was ultimately something between me and him that we could have worked out together instead of me going and telling my mom, you know, just that and the third. And to be honest with you, my mom was just like, Ivey, just why are you on my phone with this? Even though she was never really holding a grudge with AC, she always was like, well, just go talk to your man. I don't want to talk to him. Because truth be told, I'm going to leave him. So I don't want to talk to him. But then there were some other people, you know, you kind of run things by with. And, you know, they don't want to see you happy anyway. So they be like, oh, so he doing this? Oh, so what you gonna do about it? Oh, so I think I should take a little break.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not that serious. I was just, you know, asking for a little bit of advice. So I had to learn on my own. If I want some advice from somebody, the only person I can talk to is God. And I'm gonna be honest with you, because I can talk to God about him, and God would jack him clean up.
I did not think that was going to go the way.
I'm serious, y'all.
That was not the way I thought that statement was going to go.
I ran into so many. I'm not. Oh, I am hitting you.
Yes,
I ran into so many brick walls.
She continues to hit me.
I ran into so many brick walls seeking advice from other people and other married couples. You know, younger marriage. That's what we do. But it wasn't until I realized, like, everybody ain't happy for you. Everybody don't want to see you together. And then, you know, what you tell them in private ain't always private, because then they go back and they tell their spouse, or they go back and tell their friend, or whoever, whatever. And I'm telling you, God will jack these men up if you go into prayer for them. Because God don't play about us, about us.
I just really want to. I want to make sure that we're speaking the same language. Mm-hmm. So go into prayer for him.
Yeah, not like let me tell you something. When I pray to God, especially when it's about him, like I really be like, you know what, God, you got to do something, because at this moment, I'm about to flip. So that's how I talk to God, because I have to get it off my chest that way. And so when I do that, I feel a whole lot better. I can get a good night's sleep, and he can be tossing and turning.
That I just really feel.
So
I feel like, don't grab my hand in the midst of that. So, it's like you're talking about me. I feel it.
Yeah, I have to talk to you about God. I have to, because he's the only one that know how to deal with you.
I don't get that though, because when I talk to you about God, God deals with me, mm-hmm. right? But when you talk to God about me,
God deals with you.
So when did you get dealt with? That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I get that. Listen.
No. Listen. When I talk to God about you, that God deals with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But when you talk to God about me, God deals with me.
Mm-hmm.
So then when do you get dealt with?
I get dealt with. I just don't tell you.
I just feel like you're
Because
getting away with a lot. I just feel
it might
that
be,
don't sit right with my spirit.
but listen though, because I have changed, so you know God has dealt with me.
I'm just saying, I admit that God deal with me. You telling me that when you go to God, God just jacks me up. So he don't say nothing to you. he don't never. So you just telling me you just perfect. He just don't.
Oh no.
He don't.
I'm not perfect now, not
No.
by a long shot.
So God just don't deal with you at all.
I guess what I mean by that is when I go to God, I'm able to get that anger out of me. I'm able to vent to Him because I don't feel comfortable going to somebody else, because having all these people in your ear when you're upset with your spouse is not good. So I'm like, what better person to talk to about my husband than his creator? Like, let me just tell him.
That sounds a lot better than what you said, because you just made it seem like God don't say nothing to you.
Oh no, He has dealt with me, but yeah, let me just clarify. Let me make it colorful.
Like
I have to go to Him because I don't feel comfortable going to anybody else about my man. Because eventually we're going to come together, and they still going to be thinking about what I vented to them in times past.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. For those of you that are watching live, let us know in the comments. Have there ever been situations in your marriage where you felt like the opinions of others has caused unnecessary issues? You don't have to go into details, especially if you want to kind of remain anonymous. I don't think it'll be possible if you're doing it through social media. I mean, but yes, just let us know in the comments, man, if this topic is kind of hitting home as we continue to go. But I like the fact that like my wife said, she had to learn how, God's perspective of your spouse is never going to change. Like, he's still going to see them the way that they are. And I think that that's something to remember, that there is a safety net. Like, you can vent to God about the issues. It's just the problem is when you vent to certain people,
Right.
they're not ready for that conversation. And a lot of times it's because, like, for example, there are certain things that you could say about your spouse. And I think I said it already, that's going to hinder how people see them. And once again, when you get over it and you moved on and you forgiven, they're going to remember the conversations. And then you have to also think in lines. A lot of times when you tell your side, that's what you're telling. You're not telling the total story, but you're telling your perspective of it. And a lot of times your perspective might completely villainize your spouse, right? They did this, they did that, and this is how I felt, and this hurt me. And so, of course, a person who only has one side of the story can only understand the side that they're given.
Right.
So they never hear the other perspective. And before they can get it, they are already seeing it from yours. So they've been tainted in a way. So again, just understanding that sometimes the bad advice is a product of your own confession. Sometimes you cause people to give you advice that will hinder your marriage because you said certain things in certain ways that affected their perspective. And so you just got to be careful about that thing. You got to make sure that when you're trying to mesh together two people, which is you and your spouse, that you keep it at two people,
Right.
Another way that marriage can be crowded, and this is another way that most people don't think about, is when you think about generational things, right? Each person has generational trauma that's in their family, a generational habit that's in their family, or you could say a generational curse that's been in your family. Well, all of these things are factors that come into play whenever you're building a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, just using the church as an aspect. Like my wife, like, I'll let you tell, what kind of church background did you have? I'm not being funny.
I didn't laugh.
Oh,
what are you talking about?
I just felt like you looked at me like
no,
I
I
know.
looked at you like I'm trying to.
Because I guess because she's used to me making fun of the fact that she came out of.
Don't do that.
See,
don't even. We're not gonna even go there.
But just tell me.
So I came from a very traditional church. And I'm very traditional.
Oh, so go ahead, you doing fine.
So I'm very traditional. So it's like a lot of things I was set in my ways with because that's how I grew up. That's how my family. Well, we all traditional, and so that's how my church is. So we kind of real strong willed about how we feel about certain things, whether you want to call it old or not. I'm just but that's my background. We're traditional. He's not.
No, I was not raised in a traditional upbringing at all. I was raised in a non-denominational. There we go. I got all of
You
it
was
out.
raised what?
Non-denominational. No, my mom. No, mom was.
So you wouldn't even know.
No, I was raised holiness. Right.
He was raised holiness, apostolic, Pentecostal. I be your friend Baptist church. That's what he was raised.
That you the I be your friend Baptist church. That's your background. No, I was raised basically holiness. My wife was raised Baptist. We go to a non-denominational church now, and so there's a blessing. There's a blending and a meshing. So I was trying to say meshing and blending together, and somehow I ended up with blessing, and that is not a word. But we're not going to edit this out of the audio.
Yep, Jesus.
But there was a meshing together of backgrounds, and
Right.
so for us when we first started going to the ministry, well, I was already there, but when she came to the ministry, there was some conversations that need to be had about how is this going to look in the future. Like, what is our faith going to look like? What are we going to hold on to? What needs to be adjusted? Because whether you believe it or not, different denominations have different beliefs. And growing up with a certain set of beliefs for an extended period of time, and then introducing yourself to a different belief, or if the beliefs are not different, maybe in some areas it's just the methods are different, or the type of worship is different, or the expression is different. All of these things. And so there have to be conversations to be had about how does that look? Do these things fit together, or do we need to take some things out? And listen, cutting things off is never easy.
Listen. I wouldn't say it got bad, but I remember a time when we was, I guess, trying to blend in traditional and I guess untraditional. It was hard for me, like I said, because I'm like, I can't get down with what you got going on, because this is not how I was raised. Like, he was like, well, you know what? Just pack up your bags and just go back to your church every Sunday. And I'm like, that ain't no problem. I ain't problem with my daddy. That's cool. Because it was hard. Because, you know what I'm saying? It was like, how do we fix this? It wasn't until, and that's why I thank God that He had to allow me to experience, because we would have been clashing a whole lot. So God had to literally show me in a dream that this is where you're supposed to be, in so many words. He allowed me to experience different things that was happening inside of the church that we was attending. And because at first, I'm like, I wasn't raised like this. Like, all this, like, no, I'm not going to say different things, but I wasn't raised this way.
Right.
But God had to show me, like, if you're going to be with this man,
I'm letting you
he
talk.
goes to this certain church. This certain church believes X, Y, and Z. So you have to get on board with this. And to help you, because I know you're not going to do it on your own, I'm going to allow things to shift in your life so you can believe. And I'll be doggone if it did not happen. It happened multiple times in dreams. And I'm like, wow, okay. And then I had people on the other end telling me, you're going to that church, we don't do stuff like that. This, that, and the third. Be careful. And I'm like, okay. But I couldn't deny the fact what God allowed me to see. So it's like crowded. You have people in your...
If I had a bow tie,
you have people in your ear telling you, this, that, and third, even in ministry wise, not even in marriage, not what's the word I look for, not always in marriage. Yeah. But even in ministry, I had people telling me, don't, that's not where you're supposed to be, because we don't do that, this, that, and the third. But like I said, I couldn't deny what God allowed me to see and experience.
And I'm glad you brought that out, because that's actually my first time hearing that. And so, really? Yeah, you don't talk to me as much as you think you do.
I do talk to you. Oh, I know why I didn't tell you.
Well,
Because if I would have told him
now hold on before you finish. She said, "I know why I didn't tell you." So who was right? Okay, go ahead. Continue.
you're right. So I think I now that I remember I didn't tell you because at that point in time when we was bumping heads about different things, you would have got overly offended if I would have told you. Like you would have took it to the extreme. And I'm like, bro, it's not even that serious.
It is.
But then he would have just pew would took it, but that's why I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
Now that I thought, yeah.
She didn't want to have to face the fact that I was right. That's why she didn't tell me. She didn't want to hear me say, no, you gonna let me point. I know that this is a podcast and that the people that's gonna be listening can't see my hands, but for those that are live, they're gonna see my hands because I was right, and she just said that I was right without even saying that I was right.
Baby, you was right.
Lord, is Jesus coming back?
Yeah, he coming back.
but yeah, so. But I'm glad that you said that because that's actually a very powerful perspective that I think most people don't realize is very pivotal. There we go. In how you look at marriage, because like you said, your upbringing in the church background was very important to you. What's going on, Elder Norton, tuning in the live comments? Thank you for tuning in. He said, even different leaders have different differing perspectives, and that's very true. But your upbringing, it kind of gives you, I guess, the foundation on what you stand on, and for you to have to be in a place to where you were placed in an environment that was different from what you experienced, and then the voices that you've trusted, not particularly saying who, but they are part of your upbringing. So there are voices that have been influential in your life up until this point. Mm-hmm. Now you have to learn how to not base decisions based off of what they say anymore.
Right.
That's hard. And I don't think people realize how important that is. And when you're trying to build a marriage, understanding that just because the advice they gave in that season and up until this point was everything that you needed, you having shifted into this marriage now may not give them the space in your life that they had then. And that's a hard thing to realize. I think even when you brought up the fact about your mom, before marriage, and even still now, like it's not like it's different, but it's different to a degree. But, my wife pulled on her mom heavy for a lot of stuff. And she had to learn how to pull on her husband versus pulling on her mom. And that wasn't always something that she did. Like, she don't let her fool you. Like,
what?
I'm trying to help the people. But,
help them.
Okay. When we first got married, she spent a lot of time at home, and not home with me. I mean, home like she never left the house. like she literally got married to me and went back to her people house. They had to kick her out for her to come live with her husband.
Like, in my defense, I have never been.
I just they had to kick me out.
I have never lived with a man before, so that was different for me. Like, you really trying to take me?
How you gonna spend the night with your husband?
I
know I keep bringing that up, but it's just like the more I think about it, like what was I thinking that I let you treat me like this?
It wasn't a treatment, but I had to get you. Yo,
how you gonna marry somebody you ain't used to?
Yo,
do y'all hear?
Listen, we dated and he took me back home. So we got married real quick, like babe. We got married real quick. So it was like we dating, engaged, and I'm married, and then you want me to come live with you?
That's what married people do.
Like, no, I wouldn't. Like, no, because my daddy didn't play that. Like, I couldn't.
You were married. There was nothing you could do.
Yeah, but it was just like
we were crowded. Cause how you gonna get mad at me? You worry about what your daddy gonna say?
Because my daddy did not play that. Like, I better not even think about asking him, can I go spend the night with somebody? Even though I did, and I got in trouble. But it's just a thought. Like, we raised traditional. Like so when we got married, I came into the marriage with that mindset. Like, yeah, that's my husband, but I'm not. What did I just do? Like, I'm going back home to my daddy.
So basically, she just admitting that she got married and got scared and went home and left me.
No, I didn't get scared.
You was afraid to live with your own husband.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a scared thing. It was just like I never lived with a man before, so what I'm gonna do here?
I can tell you a couple things.
Babe, you know what?
Dennis Norton Jr. says, forming your own opinion is important despite the random advice because the partners, husband and wife, are on the ground floor of the relationship. I love the way that he put that. That's actually a very profound statement. Basically saying that you're the foundation of the relationship, not anybody else's opinion. And what you build is what's going to be the thing that you experience. And so basically, right, if you let other people dictate how your marriage is going to turn out, they'll live whatever they want to live, but you'll be living what they suggested.
Yeah, I want to say something so bad, but no, man.
Whisper it in my ear so I can, and I'll tell you whether you can say it or not.
Nah, because nah.
It's just whisper. Ain't nobody gonna hear you whisper in my ear. No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I wouldn't say.
Okay.
No, no. Yeah, I'm glad you got the Holy
Ghost. I got him, y'all. I got him.
Lord Jesus, that was a mess
there. So yeah, child. I was close though, but we not going, we're not gonna go there. But yeah, we're the foundation. Everybody else. It's another thing I would say, because there's women who have like, I would say best friends that you really, really can trust. And those friends do not come often. So I'm not telling you, you can't share anything with your best friends or whatever the case is. But I'm just saying what I dealt with in the past. My story may not be nobody else's story. You know what I'm saying? So it made me not trust a whole lot, but then when folks tell me, different things, it makes me more, secretive with their stuff because I know how it feels to just have your business all out in the street. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to say without saying, like, that's not cool. And I honestly know how it feels, how to have, to go to somebody in confidence and then you hear it again. And it's like, so I hold, when folks tell me stuff, I hold it dearly because I just know how it feels to have it out in the street. And that's not a good feeling, especially when you're broken and you're going through, and it's not cool.
And that's another thing that I'm glad you brought up, because not everybody's a trusted space. It's not just about the advice that they give, but it's also about what are they going to deal with the information you give them, right? We all need someone whom we can talk to,
right?
And in so many ways, we need someone who can handle the information that we're going to give them,
right?
And they're not going to be quick to leak it, right? And so those bad experiences in the past where people leak certain information that can be detrimental to your emotional well-being. I told you this in confidence. That is something that can affect your marriage too, because what if you told them something that you never told your spouse, right? And so your spouse's first time hearing it isn't from your lips. Right. That's a very detrimental experience, right? So these are things that you want to take into consideration when you're talking about who you talk to and who's in your ear. Have they proven themselves to be trustworthy? Even if they have they proven themselves to be trustworthy this far? Right. One of the examples we use, I use when I'm talking to people about building relationships is the example that we see in the model that Jesus portrayed, even when you see him matriculating in ministry, how he dealt with the disciples. And I know our Bishop Perry talks about this a lot, but he had thousands that were under him. He had hundreds that were, like the 700, 500 disciples. He had the 150, he had the 12, and then out of the 12, he had the 3. And even with the 3, there were certain places that they didn't go. So just knowing how much of you certain people can handle is pivotal. To making sure that you're not showing somebody a part of you that's going to be detrimental to your health and your spouse's. I think got another comment. Then it says, At some point, your spouse should become your best friend as trust builds over time. Now, that part I like. And this was the part I like about what he said.
What?
You about to say something?
I was, but go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say he became my best friend when I met him. I don't know when I became his, but he became my best friend when I met him because he made me feel secure enough to share different things of my past, and and he made me feel like whatever I share with him, he's able to handle it and handle it with grace, and also pray, and I won't hear it again. So yeah, that's my comment on it. Like,
But I like what and you became my best friend too, babe. But I like I like what Dennis said when he talked about in time, because that's not everybody's testimony, right?
right,
I think we live in this society where all marriages have to look the same, and that's not true. And we don't give people grace to grow. And so, you and your spouse, you should be best friends, but you may not have broken down those layers yet and have built up that level of trust. Now, in a perfect world, of course, you shouldn't be married until you've given over yourself to that level of trust, because that's a part of marriage. But we're not living in a perfect world. So ideally, yes, you want to already be at that point when you say I do. But if you're not, give your spouse time to let those barriers be broken down. You will get there.
right.
You just got to do the work. And I think sometimes we don't give people space to understand, okay, when you got married, you may not have been where you needed to be when you both said I do, but you can still get there.
Right.
It's just going to take some level of work. Our testimony is, like my wife said, we got married quickly. So there was a lot of things that we experienced early on in our marriage that was things that some people divorce over.
Right.
And it's just that we fought through it. It's not that we got a perfect marriage. We just were committed.
Right.
And even with us saying that we were committed, it doesn't mean that we never thought about giving up. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast. Like, she left me several times.
Indeed.
So it's not that we're saying that, they don't have ugly moments, but it's just about learning how to push past those moments. And so in that process, it's all about building trust. Even like she said, she talked about me being her best friend, but there were certain things, there were still trust issues there. There were still things that she did not trust. And so there just, some things just take time. Like,
with him still being my best friend, there was still some things that I was like, I don't think you can handle this out of me. I don't think you can handle this certain information right now. Even with him, I don't think he trusted me wholeheartedly right off the bat. Like, because he was scarred in his past relationship. So I don't believe that, I might have been your best friend, but I don't think you fully opened up to me until later on in marriage. That's how I feel.
and see, a lot of that was because when we got married, the last time I opened up, I got damaged. Right. And so I had to see some level of reference that said that you wasn't going to do the same thing. But it was the same thing for her. There were certain traumas that she had. And, the last time she went down that route, she got damaged. So there wasn't just automatic trust. You had to see over time. We got another comment here. Kamisha says, agreed. However, I have a best friend outside of my husband. For me, at one point, he was my entire life. It was suffocating for him. I had to learn to live life without him, but not put that weight on him. And that's something that, again, I like that she put out there, that was something that she had to realize needed to happen in her marriage, right? That at some point there was some times where you had to realize, okay, what's going on right here? This dynamic does not work for us, and so we need to make adjustments. And the adjustments that were made brought about peace. So that's why it's imperative to understand what your marriage looks like and what works. And that's why when you're thinking about even getting advice, you have to realize, okay, do they really understand us? Right? Because some people give advice, especially when it comes to marriage. Some people give marital advice based off of their personal experience, right? So they want your marriage to look like their marriage.
Right.
And they're not doing it intentional, but they're telling you what works for them. And that's not always the best way to give advice, because that may not work for you. Go ahead.
Well, she said she had a best friend outside of marriage.
Yes, she says, I have a best friend outside of my husband. So her husband's a best friend, and then there's another best friend.
Okay. Yeah. And see, like, for us, I had friends he was my best friend, but I had friends outside of him too as well. But our friendship that we had, that's all it was. But it was making him uncomfortable. So what worked for us, I had to kind of, die down the conversations and stuff. Because me and my friends, it was like three of us. We'll all be on three-way with one another. And it was just nothing. That's what it was for us. But it made him uncomfortable. So
Go ahead.
So it made him uncomfortable. So I was just, I didn't cut them completely off, but I limited the time a whole lot to where, I can't be on the phone with y'all all times of the night and just kikiing.
I'm about to say it the way that makes it.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
it wasn't. I was uncomfortable with her friendship. It was the way that there were just certain things that
we just communicated. Don't. Before I met him, we would always be on the phone like from 11 o'clock that night, and we won't get off the phone till like 4 a.m.
And these aren't females. Yeah.
Well, it was one.
But they're not just females. So like.
Yeah. So it made him uncomfortable, which I understand because I will flip tables.
Okay. I was about to say, come on, let's put the chips on the table now.
That's what I said.
Yeah, because I could never. I just want to.
I could never. Because I would flip tables if he was on three-way with his best friends at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a kiki in or whatnot. But like I said, I didn't argue with him.
And I didn't argue with her. We just had a conversation.
Right.
I didn't go, oh, you ain't gonna do it. I didn't do all that.
Right.
But we just had a conversation. Like, hey,
let me know how you feel. And he put, myself in his shoes, and I'm like, dang, like this.
But but even with that, like you still have like friends that you still got like a best friend now. It's not a man, but it's a best friend.
Right.
So it's not, and I know she didn't say what gender her friend was either. She just said a best friend, so it could be female, male. It doesn't really matter. As long as her spouse is okay with it, it doesn't really matter because that's the overall consensus, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's tolerance level is different. Everybody's trauma is different, right? There's some people who they're perfectly fine with their spouse having a friend that's from I guess the opposite gender or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's some people who their trauma won't let them be okay with it. All of those things are things that you have to work out within your own situation. So,
and every marriage is different. Every marriage is different. So what's good for us might not be good for y'all.
What's good for y'all might not be good for us. And that's the overall consensus of what we're talking about when we say crowded. Be careful about where you get advice from. Mm-hmm. Again, we're not telling you that you can't get advice or that the advice that you get can't be applied in some way, but just make sure that the person who you're talking to, they have some merit behind, have they been doing this for a while? Do they understand the fact that every marriage is different, or are they just, kind of, again, one of the things we talked about earlier was some of the advice that we got, and that we understand that when the advice was given, it was not given to harm our marriage. Mm-hmm. They wasn't trying to cause a wedge between us. They weren't trying to divide us or hurt us. They were really giving us advice that worked for them, but it did not work for us. What we experienced helped us. And so that's sometimes things that you have to continue to think about. I understand that, again, a lot of times people are going to have things to say. You're going to get people that's going to want to give their opinion, and you didn't even ask for it, right? And there are times when because my wife, I think you talked about it on one of the episodes we did where I can't remember if it was Undefiled or no, it was somebody. It was a podcast that we had the opportunity to be a guest on, and you talked about how someone pulled you to the side about something that you did concerning me.
Oh, yeah.
So in that experience, that was something she didn't ask for the advice, but it was something that she could take, right? So again, we're not saying that you can't take no advice. We're just saying that.
I want to tell it so bad.
Tell what?
Go ahead.
Tell what?
I like to tell my situations so they'll know. Go ahead, finish your statement.
Go ahead. You don't have to cut me off and stop the whole thing. Go ahead.
You brought it back to my remembrance, and it's just like, oh my God. So listen, y'all. Me and my husband got our own thing going on, right? We cut jokes, this, that, and the third. He get on my nerve, I get on his nerve. So some of the stuff that we do, we post it. That's what we do. That's, it's okay. Somebody pulls me to the side oh, y'all shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that to your husband. You need to respect him. Excuse me, ma'am? You shouldn't be posting this, that, and the third on Facebook about. Wait, I wasn't disrespectful because she was, older than me. But I sit there and I let her talk or whatever. I nod my head and say, yes, ma'am. I wanted to be disrespectful.
I wasn't around.
Yeah, he wasn't around. I wanted to be disrespectful. I really could have been because for one, you talking about something that me and my husband agreed on. It had nothing to do with you. For two, you stepping to me the wrong way. For one,
I'm just making sure that you remember
because
that
yeah,
like,
because
they're not here, right?
I know they're not here, but it's like you stepping to me about something that me and my husband agreed on. So, like I said, I nod my head and I said, yes, ma'am. And I let her share her piece. So, whatever she felt, and I kept it moving. But it didn't hinder nothing because I still post. I still say what I want to say because this is what me and my husband agreed on. Whether you like it or not, it got nothing to do with you. That's your problem. And then the thing about it is, y'all,
Uh-oh.
she ain't even got no man.
Jesus.
So it's like, sis, you stepping to me, telling me what to do and how to respect. And I was like, I wasn't disrespecting him. We do this as a team to one another. But you ain't got no man. You ain't even married. Like, don't do that.
All right.
Okay, going to the next.
You good
Yeah,
now? You got it out?
Yeah,
All
because
right.
it's like crowded. You having people in your ear, stepping to you about, you know what I'm saying? But you, how you say, chew the meat, spat the bone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. But in my mind, I'm just like, don't do that.
But I like you got people out there talking about she got on me.
What?
In the
I can't
comments.
see the comment. Oh.
Kamisha says some friends don't respect or are not aware of marital boundaries. Best friends should share the same lifestyle, morals, and respect your spouse. If it's not shared, they should not have your ear. And I agree with that. If they don't understand your boundaries and if they don't understand the lifestyle, and they definitely if they don't respect your spouse, they should not have your ear.
Right.
I can't stretch. I can't. Is it stretch? What am I doing? Stress. I can't stress that enough. That is so key that we understand that if they don't respect your spouse, they should not have your ear. Now there are extreme cases where that may be okay, like if you're in a volatile situation, maybe you're in an abusive situation and the lack of respect is due to them saying, hey, we're saying this for your personal safety, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's just something to where they just got a personal issue or a personal vendetta against your spouse, but the issues or the vendettas that they have against your spouse are not things that are problems to you, don't allow other people to make them problems to you if it's something that's not going to cause an unhealthy situation later, or if it's something that you both can work on, because at the end of the day nobody's perfect, right? So there are certain things that I do that another person would not tolerate, right? There's just certain things that are the characteristics that I have as a man, regardless of, even my faith. There's just certain characteristics that I have that another person would not tolerate. And so should they know that part about me, they'll say, oh, I would leave them in a heartbeat, right? But for my wife, it's not a problem. Right. And it's the same thing. There's just certain things that my wife does that another man probably would not tolerate, but they're not a problem to me. That doesn't mean that they're not problematic. Doesn't mean that I don't see it as a kind of an issue, but it's not like groundbreaking. Like we don't have to separate because of these things. I know how to manage around it, right? And so that's another thing to keep in mind. Sometimes people will make small issues major to you, but there are things you're like, this is nothing. Like the fact that they got this going on, we work through that. We know I know how to handle that, right? And so it's the same thing.
I would say to piggyback off the respect thing, another story time.
You've had a lot of stories. I didn't know you had this many stories. I ain't had not one story yet.
Well, another story time with the respect thing, like my husband is gospel rapper, Christian rapper, however you want to put it. So he had a show that he was invited to. So this particular person that invited him to the show, I was, cool. I was fine. So when we got to the show, that particular person decides to make an approach to him.
Not just
Not an approach, but just general speaking.
okay. Make it.
Hey, how you doing? God bless you. My husband, doing fine. Looks at me and keeps walking. So I ain't say nothing because I'm like, okay, I saw that. Get ready to leave. Oh, Future, you did so good. Oh, this, that, and the third. Speaks to him. Didn't say nothing to me. And mind you, now I'm like this with him. Like we not far away from each other because he ain't finna be, no. To me, that was disrespectful. Don't do that. To me, that was disrespectful.
You just jacked me up just now.
Because we wasn't like I was trying to make a point. Like we wasn't.
You had to jack
distance.
me up.
We
Like
was like
this is the reason why it's called story time. This is over, right? I just
so I'm just saying. To me, that was disrespectful. Because it's like, did you really just speak and acknowledge my husband, but didn't even speak and acknowledge me at all? This will be the last time my husband comes to your little stink behind show.
All right, keep it holy.
No, I'm keeping it holy because it is. That's what I'm saying. When you realize people don't really respect your marriage, and I don't, I don't have a problem with that person. I don't. I still don't. But I just feel like that was disrespectful. So, facts is facts, triple facts. But you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna speak to my man and acknowledge him and what he did, and then look over me. That's not. We're not about to do that. So, let's just say he ain't been back to one of their shows since.
I don't think I really had a whole lot of choice in the matter in that. But
yeah.
Sometimes you got to know when to fight, what battles to fight, and that ain't a battle that was worth my fight. You understand? But in the same thing, I agree that, like I told her, I said, if you felt like that was disrespectful, I gave her grace to handle it, and I gave her grace to make sure that, because I as a man, I never want my wife to feel like her being in an environment to support me puts her at a place of being disrespected, especially to that degree. And so I've always given her grace to make sure you stand your ground, make, whatever you got to do, which is the reason why, like she said, we was walking like this. That's kind of intentional on us. We try to make sure that when we're seen together, so that people can understand, like, there's no division here. Like, right. We don't play those games, right. Especially when you're early on in marriage. Like, when your marriage is a little more solidified. I mean, you still have to watch, but that was certain things that we didn't still do. I allow her to cover and hold me accountable, I should say, rather. She allows me to cover and hold her accountable. So we don't push each other away, but we use that accountability in spaces where it's needed. And it has been something that has helped us because if you're not watchful, you can let too many people into your personal space, right. That can cause a wedge between your marriage, and you don't even realize that was their intent the entire time. Right. And so I thank God for my wife having the eye that she has to see things like that. But it's more imperative that I, as a husband, don't just take it as nagging, or I say don't just take it as jealousy, but hear the sincerity. It was something I think my bishop told me, a lot of times you have to learn that, I think someone said in the comments that women, they tend to know women, and men, they tend to know men. So, I would encourage, every man, if your wife says something about a female and you don't see it, but she says she sees it, trust her advice. But vice versa, men or women, if your husband says something about a man and you don't see it, trust his advice, because we tend to know what we deal with as men, and we tend to know what men tend to look for, even though, men are different. There's a general overall consensus, right? And so that's the whole point of the advice. And that's what it's called, accountability, and it's called cover, right? So that was one of those times where that helped. And had I don't know, went to someone else, right? Like a single friend who's not married, that, they don't like, oh, she tripping, or she jealous, she trying to da, right? Because like my wife said, though, that's the situation. But outside of that, there was nothing else. So another person would have looked at it and said, that's just being extra. But maybe it's not being extra. It's what's needed to safeguard. So all of these things are things you want to think about whenever you're looking at your marriage and what works for you all. Because even if it wasn't a situation to where it needed to be addressed, it's still something that made my wife uncomfortable, right? And so had I not dealt with it, had I not respected her position, her perspective, that would have caused issues in our marriage. So again, it's not always about what everyone else thinks. Sometimes it's about what really genuinely works for you.
For you.
All right. Anything else you want to add on the topic today, babe?
I could, but I'm not.
Well, great. I don't know how many lawsuits we're facing. But man, we thank y'all for tuning in. Those that have been commenting and those that have been watching, we appreciate those that are watching or listening. You can watch and listen to the replay. Again, the video cast can be caught on the Davis Clan on Facebook. It can also be caught on the Davis Clan on YouTube. But if you do not want to watch the video cast, you can catch the audio on Anchor and Spotify, wherever you catch a podcast. It's the Davis Clan. Undefiled is the name of the show. We are in season 2, and this episode has been crowded. Again, we did talk about a giveaway that we're going to do. And so we've been gifted by one of our sponsors, again, to give another giveaway. Now, those of you that have not followed us before, if this is your first time, we do giveaways on the show all the time. We've given away trips. We've given away gift cards. We've given away all types of stuff. It just depends on what our sponsors send us. This particular thing is a date night package. Well, not really a package, but it's like a game / book. And it's called the Adventure Challenge Couples Edition. And it's kind of like a game that you play where it's basically filled with different things that you can do. It does help if I hold it up, huh?
Yeah.
It's filled with different things that you can do. I'm trying to get it out the light, but you see it. Different things that you can do. And the little squares, the silver squares are scratch off. So you scratch off the square. It tells you a date. It tells you a date idea that you can do.
Hit me in the face.
Well, move your face out the way.
I'm trying to help you.
How you help? Hold the thing up.
Because you
hold it up. All right. So you on the top it says, what to do, how much it cost. What I like, it tells you how much it'll cost to do the date idea. It tells you what time to do it, and it also tells you how long it should be, and it tells you whether it's indoors, outdoors. All of these different things are things that it tells you before you even scratch it off. But once you scratch it off, you have to do the idea. That's the way it works, right? That's what makes it the game. So you get to look at it before you do the scratch off to get a general idea of, how much money you'll need, how much time it'll take, when to do it. And if you even need to travel to do it, if you need someone to babysit, you get all of that in the little symbols beside it. And then you just scratch it off and you do whatever comes up. So that's how you play the game. Again, this was gifted to us by one of our sponsors to be a gift to you all. So what we're going to do is, in order to win this particular giveaway, all you have to do, if you're live on the video cast right now, is just comment your name in the comment section. It's really just that simple. And you get entered into a free drawing to win the gift. Whoever wins, we'll reach out to figure out how we're going to give it to you. All right. And so make sure you go live in the comments right now. Just comment your name so we know that you were watching live, and we can go back and pull the names of those that were watching so that we can give this gift away. But also, we're going to do another giveaway. We usually do one where we post the name of the show, or we post what I'm trying to say. We post a flyer with the different themes of shows that we're going to have, and give you an opportunity to guess what the next show will be, and whoever guesses correctly wins a gift from there. And that's usually like a gift card or something. So be prepared for that. You'll be seeing that flyer come out soon. So we try to do these shows at least once a month. So this is our show for the month of September. So we will not be back again until October. But we are in the season 2, which is Marriage Killers. And there are a lot of topics that we're going to be discussing. So
and I promise y'all, we're going to get this thing together. We're going to be consistent. We're going to be consistent with getting on live. Because we apologize. It's been a lot going on. That's why we haven't been, but we still here.
Right.
We're still here.
Right.
But we're gonna do better.
Yeah, so we, like she said, we just really had to kind of get a foundation of what we wanted to do and how it would look going forward. With some more things that we still want to adjust, and like she said earlier too, I just recently started another podcast, and now my wife wants to start her own podcast. So
Because I got something to say and I
right,
want to say it
so we're gonna
to
be
help the people.
so we're gonna be looking at getting those things off of the ground, man, and just continue to be productive. So again, we appreciate everyone that's tuning in, those that are watching live, those that are watching or listening to the replay. This has been Undefiled. We are your hosts, AC.
Oh, and I'm Ivy.
Every single
I
time.
know.
Every time. How do you keep? We've been.
Cause I be thinking you gonna say this AC and this Ivy, but I didn't know you want me to say it. I know now, but
But I do this every. This is every time.
Y'all know me.
Every time. All you have to do, you literally only have to say your name. That's all you have to.
I be thinking you gonna say it.
How do you get your name wrong?
I didn't say I got my name. I just be thinking you gonna say this AC and Ivy, but you don't say AC and Ivy. You just say this AC and be looking at me fool.
So
and
you
I'm
can
like,
say your name.
Okay. Oh, you see his dimple? He had a little cute
dimple.
dimple.
Get off. End the show. End the show. That is it. This is it. There's no outro. Get off of me. Stop.
His
this
little
is...
dimple. I love it.
Don't touch me. Stop.
He doesn't like it, but I love it. I love his little one dimple.
I am done. I am so done. I'm done. This is why we can. This is why we don't do shows now. This right here is exactly why.
Because I do want to do another thing, babe. I want to show them, like, because you know how we posting the good stuff on Facebook. Like, folks need to see. I want they need to see the bad stuff, but they need to see that it's not always peaches and cream in marriage. Like, if you get some couples together and just go over different marriage issues, you will see that you are not by yourself. Like, you are not alone in this thing called marriage. Like, there's husbands that they do what husbands do. If wives,
what is that? What is that? What is what husbands do?
Yeah. So yeah, I just I want to be like, I want to be real transparent. Like,
we not being transparent.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm gonna post me like today, y'all. He is just really, that's what I want to do.
Oh, so you
can. We gonna be.
So basically, what she's saying is she's finna start spilling milk, and she just wants y'all to know that we okay. She just want to be So you want me to give you permission on the live to talk about me on Facebook. That's what you no. Just
to show the people.
No.
Like, I still love him.
No, stop pulling me closer. No.
Getting on my nerves.
She's not
right
listening
now.
to me. No.
I still love him.
No, yeah. This is live, right? This is live. Now. I want y'all to understand. I am saying no.
Okay.
I am not consenting.
Okay.
I am not consenting. This is no.
Okay, baby.
So if you post on social media, anything that is pertaining to negativity about me,
baby,
that is integral rape. I just want you to know that. That's what that, because I am no wait, hold on. wait. This is dope. Get off of me because I don't know how did we get hush. Because wait a minute.
Okay, yeah. You got rude.
Because wait, how did we get here?
Because you mentioned my ratings.
No. I said integral. What are you talking about? I mean, but what are you talking about?
He just said I do want you rate me.
No, I did not. No,
Yes, you did. We're gonna end this. Okay, so this is AC. This is Ivy, and we love y'all. And have a good evening. Because he's showing out.
You
end it.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
Peace.